Soundstripe.
Welcome back to the In Our Headspace podcast. Jared's over here laughing.
Just smiling.
This is episode 2. I personally want to talk about, I kind of want to continue a little bit of the tone of what we were talking about last time.
All right.
At least at the beginning, because I've got a couple thoughts based on an experience I had earlier, like first 2 or 3 days of this week. And then we'll probably end up talking about CRISPR, if we remember. And as usual, we don't know what else we're going to be talking about by the end of it, but it'll be completely different from what we started. So you can expect, that's the one consistency with this that I'm realizing, is that we never stay on track.
That's the best part.
It is the
it
best
makes
part.
conversations interesting.
Yes.
Because at least for me,
unpredictable.
Yeah. In general, like, I don't think I want to listen to someone talk about the exact same topic for like over an hour.
Especially if we only did like science stuff and we only
even in general, because I guess that's a lie, because I do enjoy listening to lectures on YouTube, but
right. But there's different things you get out of it. Every time.
Also, like at the same time, like those are the professionals, like and then you just have like
they're trained into how to make it interesting. We're not.
Yeah, and like just two dumbasses talking about it. It's like
Okay. Well, we'll just jump into it then. What I'm going to talk about is, hold on, let me look exactly how I said it in my notes, because I think I wrote something specific. Okay, never mind. I didn't. I just put. Anyways, I want to talk about like anxiety.
All right.
And a really strange experience I had earlier this week.
Yeah.
So on Labor Day, I was off.
Okay.
And I spent the day not really doing anything. I was home alone. And then, this is prefacing what I'm about to get into. And then later that night, because the whole day I was so bored.
Okay.
I couldn't entertain myself for the life of me.
Okay.
And I wasn't like creatively motivated or anything like that. So I was just kind of like doing whatever, like watching YouTube videos. I played some Minecraft.
All right.
But like, I don't know, I felt pretty unfulfilled. And then Mia got off work, and then I was like, yes, someone to hang out with.
Okay.
And so we decided to do a movie night. So we went and
This the B movie? No, that was a
long time ago. So then we went and got like snacks and soda, and then we came home, and I was like, oh, I want to show you this movie Hereditary. Have you seen Hereditary yet?
No.
So it was me, Shane, and Cameron that watched it.
I'm missing out.
So Mia had never seen it either, and I've been wanting to show it to her for a while because it's one of my favorite horror movies. And so we started watching it, and I was like, I've seen this movie 3 times already.
Okay.
And like,
it's like a horror suspense, right?
It's horror. It's a very slow burn. Like,
okay.
Anyways, the moral of the story, it riddles me with anxiety every time I watch it.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's like, it has me on edge the whole time, and it's a good thing in my opinion. The problem came when after the movie ended and it didn't stop, and I just kept feeling this like extreme anxiety, and it was like a tightness in my chest.
Okay.
And it felt like really difficult to breathe. And then like my heart rate's pounding like the whole time. And anyways, it ended up keeping me up most of the night, and I didn't sleep.
All right.
And then throughout the next day, I kept having really bad anxiety. And it was like, and I don't know what causes it. And I know most of it's like mental health stuff, but it's interesting to me that like now, ever since Wednesday or whatever,
okay,
I've been fine. But the snowball effect of it is like, it makes it harder to breathe. It makes it harder to like
you sound way
focus.
better now.
Thank you. It's because it's more towards my mouth.
Is mine fine?
Yeah, yours is
okay.
fine.
That's so funny.
You interjected like that. So anyways, it just like makes it hard to stay calm, and then you stop, like you have like these weird breathing patterns or whatever,
Okay.
and your heart's beating really fast, and then you're like, oh god, like is something gonna happen to me? Like, am I gonna choke? Am I gonna like not breathe? And then that gives you more anxiety. And then you're like trying to sleep, and then you're like, oh, but what if I have a really bad health issue that's causing this? And then
Yeah.
like
You
then I
Google
get my own
something,
head,
it's like,
and
you're
then
going to have this
Dr.
and die
Google
tomorrow.
scares you. Yeah,
You're going to die tomorrow.
exactly. And it's like freaky, and it like, and that happens to me, and it's like on a 3-day range, and it's
All right.
happened a lot, like in the past like 5 months. But it's just interesting that like I can go from that and then go to sleep and then wake up the next day, and I'm just like after that 3-day whole 3-day experience, and then I'm like, oh, I'm fine. And then like don't feel anxiety. Like when I'm in that weird sensitive state, like even thinking about anxiety gives me anxiety, and then it just goes. So it's like, I don't know. I had that experience, and like the first part of my week kind of sucked. Because I wasn't getting a ton of sleep. I was like feeling that feeling of like, oh, I'm not doing anything. And it's just funny because the whole conversation last week was do things with intent and be fulfilled. And I just want to talk about how it can affect you in so many different forms. Jared's just staring at me, trying not to laugh.
I'm fine.
You're laughing at my mental health issues, Jared?
I was going to build on. I wasn't going to make fun of you.
It's okay. You can make fun of me. I can take it.
I was going to say that's very interesting.
Yes.
Because you're having anxiety that stumbled upon you.
It was self-induced.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to draw the difference between what you just had
Mm-hmm.
and then someone who's not doing anything with their life becoming self-conscious and getting anxiety that way.
Yes.
And I find that interesting because with you,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like I'm having it because of this, or I'm not having it because of the specific thing that I'm doing. Like you didn't know exactly why it was causing it.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to
All
say.
I knew is it started with the movie.
Yeah, you just had like, and I would typically say like people get anxiety, like if you're procrastinating homework,
Mm-hmm.
maybe
You're
towards
stressing
the end,
yourself out.
towards the end of the week, you'll create that anxiety and you'll know what's creating it.
Right.
And
then you can do the thing, and then your anxiety is a lot of the time like at least somewhat relieved.
Yeah, well, because like at the end when you finish it in time, turn it in,
mm-hmm.
then there's that feeling of relief, like, oh, and I could do that again later.
I can breathe now. Yeah. But when you don't know what it is, then you're like,
yeah, and
just stop. Stop.
See, that's the thing. Like that, I just find that because I forgot what I was going to say, but
okay, I got a question for you. Oh, did he come back?
I don't know. I'm just going to talk.
Okay, continue.
So I was going to go off of or continue on with saying it's interesting going back to your case with the unknown anxiety and then it lasting longer.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was originally going to say anxiety is like a good thing because it's like a mental note, or I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's cases where it's like you have like an actual medical condition with it. It's like, see, that's a bad case.
Prescribed anxiety.
Yeah. But
not diagnosed anxiety.
Diagnosed.
Sorry, I just said
I don't think you prescribe anxiety.
It's the opposite. Anyways.
But I just thought because the reason why I said there was the bad and then like the good anxiety, because I think usually people throw anxiety with like depression and be like, oh, that's bad. I view anxiety that's not a crazy medical condition, because again, if you have that, that's a problem.
Yes.
But when people don't have it and whatever they're doing and they're feeling anxiety, I think that's a good thing, because I view that as your body saying like, there's an issue.
You need to do something.
We need to address this.
Yes.
And again, like I want to say, like, they're both uncontrolled.
Yes.
Like if someone could procrastinate and not feel anxiety, I feel like a lot of people would do that, honestly.
Yes.
Like whenever they're stressed out, they'd want to turn it off.
Right.
That, like in that sense, like, but at the same time, like, I don't know if I want to call it in control, because you also know what's causing it and you can work on it to stop it.
Here's my understanding of the two, because I'd say I'm in the camp of,
Well, I was talking about that instance.
Diagnosed. Like, I haven't been actually diagnosed.
Okay.
But it runs in my family, and I think just knowing, like, being with Mia, who doesn't have diagnosed anxiety, anxiety is a natural human response, but like there's a difference between having anxiety problems and just getting anxiety as a person. And that's kind of what I was going to say earlier. Like, I was going to ask you, like, do you ever feel anxiety about anything other than like the regular things to feel anxiety about? Not in like any other way than, I'm just curious, because like,
I'll just
no one ever, like, I don't know. I didn't know Mia had really ever felt anxiety until I asked her about it. And so, yeah, I'm just curious, like, do you feel anxiety on that level, or is it more just like
all right, so to talk about it, first off, I'll just talk about like the flip side, like, just real quick, like, just about depression. I've never had depression on the flip side, because again, usually they're lumped together.
They're going hand in hand a lot of the time. Yeah.
I've never had depression. I've never just been like sad, where it's again depression. You know, I was sad when my grandparents' dog died.
But there's difference between being sad and being depressed.
There's just being sad moments. I was like sad for like, 2-3 days, because like, oh man, the dog's dead.
It's grieving. Yeah.
But then, I'd be fine. Whereas like, so again, I just never had depression.
Okay.
And so anxiety, for me, I don't think I have ever had anxiety without knowing what the issue was.
Okay. So then that's more, that's a definitely,
I'm saying like more
normal.
than, I was going to say, I'm just saying, I think it's more on the normal side. Because like, rather than trying to classify, I was like, I'll just explain.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Like the stuff I feel anxiety about is like, I'm being lazy for however long. And then I think, oh geez, what am I doing with my life? I need to do something. Although like, I am doing stuff.
Yeah.
When I just have a prolonged period of not doing anything. And you'd be like, oh, play games. Like, oh, I don't want to play games.
Yes.
When I'm sitting there not doing anything, maybe just going through YouTube, all I think, oh my God, I need to do something.
It's kind of how I felt Monday.
Yeah.
I was like, so I went on a walk and did some other stuff, but yeah, it's that feeling of the stagnation we were talking about.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get caught in that loop. And that makes sense. For me, and it's almost like on a scale of like severity, but
all right.
I know for me,
well, yeah.
What? Oh, did you have more to say?
You just reminded me of like, I think I call them episodes, but I don't think it was anxiety driven. I don't like, you finish your thing and I'll talk about it.
So essentially the way it works for me is I have triggers, and if something hits the trigger, I don't know all of them, because most of the time the anxiety is unexpected. But even when I expect the anxiety and I know it's going to happen, once I get it, like I said, it's like this loop, and it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And it's hard to get my mind off of it. And essentially the feeling I have is like my body goes into fight or flight, gets hard to breathe, my muscles tense up, really hard to focus on anything but the fact that I'm going through a lot of anxiety.
Okay.
And even when I'm trying to distract myself, then like it gets difficult to breathe, and then I'm focusing on my breathing. And then it's like a huge thing. And it usually, like, recently has been going on in like multiple day episodes, like you were saying. But the thing is like, I have specific triggers, and I have gone through depression, and trauma and all that, which creates the triggers. And then instead of me getting instantly thrown into depression, it throws me into anxiety. And I'm not saying that's what triggers do, like depression wise, but I'm saying like that's how triggers work, is like they're created by the trauma and depression and things like that. All the bad stuff, those are the triggers are created there. And then whenever something hits them, your mind goes into this like fight or flight, like worried mode. At least mine does.
All right.
And it's hard for me. I haven't figured out a good method to help relieve myself of that, because most of the time it's psychosomatic and you're kind of in your own head about it and you're freaking out and you're like, well, what about this? Or what if it's this? Or what if this happens? Oh my gosh. Then what if this person has to deal with this? Like for me, I think a big trigger is, this is going to sound weird and kind of random, but not random, but it's death. And I think in all facets of it, like of myself dying, of like anybody I know dying, or watching someone actually die. And I think that's why Hereditary sparked it for me, because there's a really gruesome scene in there towards the beginning, and it's like really, really well made. And to attest to that point, it causes extreme anxiety in me because of how real it felt. But it like hits that trigger, and then I'm like, cool. Like it's for me, it's like I'm not scared of it, but like I'm like, cool, this movie's like really immersing me.
Yeah.
And then after the fact, then I keep thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, what if this happened to me? Or what if this happened to someone I know, or whatever? And then like, then I get in my head, and then I'm like, oh crap, my heart's beating really fast right now, and it's been beating really fast for a long time. What if my heart like overloads, and then I have like a heart attack? Because that's possible at a young age, right? And then I look it up, and it's like, it is possible at a young age.
Google said you're going to die tomorrow.
Yep. And then it's like, oh, but high blood pressure. And then what if I have high blood pressure? And then like, could that happen to me at a young age? Yeah, it could. Oh my gosh, I'm susceptible to all these things. And then you
now
get
you're
in
like
your
a
head,
type 1 diabetic. And
and then you get in your head and you're like freaking out. And then there's no way to like get yourself down from it. At least, well, there is, but like, I don't know. It's different for every person. And I don't know how to do it yet. How to like relax myself, because that's all I need is to just relax. But the reason it keeps me up is because I get freaked out, and then I can't fall asleep because I'm scared to fall asleep. And then I will eventually fall asleep out of pure, I wouldn't say exhaustion, but like I'm tired. So I'm gonna fall asleep.
yeah.
And then I'll wake up out of my sleep scared, and it'll take me a little while to get back into sleep. And then I'll just keep waking up, and I won't ever get into REM sleep.
I've never had that.
So like, I technically slept through the night, but I didn't get any meaningful rest. Definitely not mentally. So anyways, that's what happened to me Monday night. That didn't happen to me Tuesday night as bad. What happened Tuesday night, here's a little anecdote for you. Tuesday night, I was like feeling better with my anxiety enough to go to sleep. And then I fell asleep at a reasonable time. And then I woke up at 4 a.m. to pounding on my front door. And someone like mashing my doorbell.
Okay.
And Mia and I looked at each other like, what is going on? Like, why? Like, what? Like, when you wake up to someone pounding on your front door, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what to do, and we were freaking out. And I was like, okay, we'll just wait and listen, see if it happened again. They did it in 3 separate instances. And so then I was like, Mia was like, I'm calling the police. So she called the police. And the dispatcher was like, "Oh yeah, it's officers. They're like doing they're checking the apartments for something." And so we're like, "Oh okay." And they're like, "Just answer the door next time they come back on their route or whatever." And that was like 3 minutes later. So I opened the door, and they were looking for my neighbors.
Yep.
And you saw the sign on my neighbor's door. They basically didn't pay rent and abandoned property or whatever. So, but the fact that they were like 4 a.m. pounding on the front door, like, why would you do that, first of all, unless they thought we were them? But we weren't, and our number was different and all that. But
I'm sure they have a reason though.
there's something. But anyways, all that to say, the point was I was finally about to get some actual rest, and then that happened, and then it kicked my anxiety back into high gear
Yeah.
And then I was still behind on sleep the next day. And I went through the whole next day, like tired and high anxiety. And then Wednesday, like Tuesday night, I finally slept a full night. And like, then it kind of affected me up until around lunchtime on Wednesday. And then I ate food. And then I was like, fine. And I've been fine since. So like, it's just weird that it's just like a vicious cycle of like the thing that causes it isn't necessarily what keeps it going. What keeps it going is then I start thinking about the side effects of the anxiety, which then perpetuates my anxiety. And then like, then I get less sleep, which makes me more susceptible to be anxious and like not thinking clearly. And then that causes more anxiety. And then it just compounds and it sucks. But, and I know there's people out there who have that times 10. And that's what I mean by like on a scale of severity is like, I don't have it as bad as a lot of people have it, but I do have it to a mild degree of like, it's not crippling, but it kind of takes me out for a couple days. But it's just interesting to me because since I've lived with it for most of my life, I don't know when it manifests or manifested in me, but it's just interesting to talk to people who don't deal with that, you know, like, oh, my response to the situation is to get incredibly anxious and worried. Your response is, I don't care. Like, it's just interesting that everyone has their own things. And then it makes me wonder, like, so what do you get in place of my anxiety, essentially?
Yeah, so I don't have a snowball effect like that for me.
Mm-hmm.
So back to my episodes, I think they were probably anxiety driven and they're very sporadic, usually only at like 12 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this one crazy one where I had two actually. The first one like a long ass time ago. I remember I couldn't go to sleep and I stayed up till like 5 or 6 and then I just woke up at 8 and then just like continued about my day.
Yep.
That was just weird as fuck because that probably had something to do with me not going to bed when I normally do. I'm like,
right.
Maybe there's some like subconscious shit going on around there and like it throws me off. I'm like, oh, I should be sleeping, but I'm not sleeping.
Whoops.
And so, but it didn't spiral out of control. I was just really tired the next day. And I'm just like, oh, I just want to go to bed. But
yeah,
I have a really hard time going back to sleep.
Me too.
After I wake up.
Well, depends on where I am at in the cycle. But like, I don't like napping. I hate napping unless I'm like dead tired, which I did actually this week because I was so tired. I went and slept for like an hour just to like help my mind and
reset.
Like calm down. Yeah, reset. Exactly. But I don't know. I've been there. Like the first time it happened when I got it's funny. I'm looking at this note taped to Mia's computer that I wrote. And I wrote that because I was feeling extremely high anxiety and she's going on a trip a couple weeks ago. And I was like getting anxiety about it. And so instead of like holding it inside, I like went and wrote out on this paper. And that kind of made me feel better because I'm like, cool, I'm like communicating my feelings about it. And it helped like lift a weight. It didn't like resolve it, but it helped me have a clearer mind.
All right.
But I'm trying to remember where I was at before, where I was saying when I originally got tested for COVID, I thought I had it because I had really bad anxiety. And I looked it up after the fact, but like since then I've realized, and I said this earlier, when you get anxiety, your chest muscles can tense up.
All right.
It doesn't feel like they're tensed up, but they do. And then it makes it harder to breathe.
Okay.
And then you get scared of that. Anyways, so it was hard for me to breathe. And I was like, oh, I'm short of breath and all this. And it kept me up till 6 a.m. because I was super paranoid about it. And I had heard like, It wasn't an article. It wasn't any substantial evidence. I think I saw a comment or something somewhere on the internet, somewhat recent to that, where they were like, oh yeah, some guy got COVID and then his lungs filled up with liquid and then he died in his sleep. I don't know any degree of what validity that has, but all I know is I was in my head.
Yeah.
And then
Thinking worst case scenario.
Yeah, and then I was thinking about it and I was like, oh, what if I have this? And maybe that's what's causing my shortness of breath. Again, that snowball effect. And I was up till 6 a.m. until finally I like just passed out and didn't go to work the next day. Then I called the doctor to get tested and then I had the appointment the next day. Then by the time I went and got tested, I was hardly feeling the side effect that I claimed I was feeling because my anxiety was starting to subside. And I told the lady, like, yeah, I think it was probably just anxiety. But she still tested me and it came back negative. But I was explaining to her, and she's like, your lungs sound fine. Your heart sounds fine. You seem normal. And I was like, I'm starting to think about it more. And it was like, it could have been like a really bad fit of anxiety. And the reason it surprised me so much is because I'd never done that before. That was my first instance of me going through these anxiety attacks.
Okay.
And
so
then I've had
prior to that, you never really had anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
So prior to that, my anxiety was mostly base level, like, ooh, I'm freaking out. And
yeah, your
then,
homework is due tomorrow.
Yeah, and then it would go away, or it'd be like a trigger, but then it would go away. But it wasn't until like the past couple months that like it sticks with me, and that's just because I get in my own head about it.
Yeah.
But now it's happened twice since then. Something's up. I need to figure it out. But anyways, so it's just fascinating that like you were saying, it kept you up all night one night, but then you just felt tired the next day. Kept me up all night. I woke up. I was still feeling the anxiety, thinking I was having symptoms, called, did the thing. And it wasn't until the third day that I was like, okay, I think it was just anxiety because it's gone now.
Yeah.
And then, and now it's like, all that entire conversation is just to say, like, it's just fascinating how one day you can feel like you're going to die. And then the next day you're like, I'm fine. I'm normal.
Yeah.
Not a worry. Like,
well, that's a great thing about our brains. Be pretty hard to struggle as soon as like you become conscious. You're like, oh, I can die. But then that's all you think about.
Yeah.
And so, again, like.
Oh, also another thing.
Yeah.
I got Whoppers as my snack for movie night.
Yeah.
And they expired in May. So the gas station I bought them from.
Oh my God.
Gave me 5 months expired Whoppers, and I was pissed.
What did they taste like?
They just tasted stale, and they didn't like taste like sweet. They were just like I was eating cardboard because they were stale, and I was like, come on. The one thing that could have helped me here.
Yeah.
And they're just bad. And I ate 2 of them, and I was like, these taste weird. And then I was like, I wonder if they expired. And I was like, maybe they expired like a month ago. And I look at it, it was May 2020. I was like, what? Why? Why were these on your shelf? Anyways, they're charging full price. No worries. I just got scammed. Continue.
I don't remember exactly.
The great thing about our brains, if like consciousness.
Oh yeah, is having that ability to not always think about the worst case scenario, because you probably wouldn't live very long.
That's true. Yeah. Like being able to
be very restrictive.
Yes.
If you weren't able to have some ignorance and completely forget about your death.
Yeah.
Because, trying to live your normal day life while like under anxiety, it's not a great thing.
Yeah.
And
then it stresses out your body really
bad. That's what I think is a great thing about our brain, is that it has the ability to do that.
It's interesting because it's 2 sides of the same coin of, man, I'm glad my brain can ignore existential crisis. And then it's like, damn, wish my brain couldn't comprehend existential crisis.
That's what's so fascinating about us, though. But there's the second case I had. I told you about this. It was I went to bed at like 12 or 1, and then I just woke up at 4. like it wasn't about death. Like it just happened.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just sitting there thinking, and I just sit up from my bed, and I'm just sitting there thinking, so what the hell's going on? And this is like max anxiety for me.
Uh-huh.
Probably not near as bad as other people, but
Yeah.
so I'm sitting here at my max anxiety. I check it's 4 o'clock. So I wait like 30 minutes. I get up, go to my computer, just like kind of stare at my monitor for like 30 minutes.
Yep.
And then I just pulled up a Word document to start typing.
Uh-huh.
And I ended up typing like a 3-page paper in half an hour.
Oh
or
my-
four page.
Jeez.
Like I literally just kept typing and typing and typing for half an hour.
Damn.
And then I just stopped and I was like, what the hell? Oh. And then I went back to bed.
Like, oh, that was weird. And you just go back to bed.
What I typed about was for a lot of us, and that maybe this could go back and relate to how I said our brain has like the on and off for awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about how I think a lot of the times we blow a specific topic that is worrying us into huge proportion.
Yes.
For example, like you're in the dating world, and of course you don't want to be an ugly person.
No, you don't want to be rejected.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want. Like it would suck if you were completely hideous, and you. So,
Why is it where it's from, Jared?
What?
Oh man, that would suck if you were completely hideous. That's so funny.
You would
Okay.
have heard the rest of it.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I just it's so funny.
Because if you would look around, you'd be like, "Oh, all these people are beautiful. They have this, and that," or not even horrendous. You could be completely average. You could even be above average.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you could just be an outsider looking in, seeing people like looking perfect or whatever. But the reason why I'm talking about that is because when I was typing the paper, I don't know why I talked about it, but I did. It was amazing how we take certain concepts and blow them into a huge proportion.
Yes.
Because for a lot of people, like you're comparing yourself to others who post pictures of themselves online.
Yes.
You could be like, oh, they look better at this. They have this that I don't. And it's crazy how big people really blow that out of proportion, because then they treat it like that's the only thing in life. That's what I'm lacking. And then it causes them sadness and whatnot. Like
they base their happiness around
well, there's
this
like so
one
much
thing.
more to life than just that. Like you could be learning a skill. You could be reading, you could be learning, you could be out exercising, you could be doing a lot of things, but what you decided to do in the moment, consciously or not, because I'm sure it happens when people don't consciously want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But like for you to take this idea and like make it basically your world for however long, that was something I talked about, and I just found it interesting.
So that's what you wrote about.
I think so.
Interesting.
There might be more that I wrote about, but
yeah, it's
I don't remember.
It's like just the concept of, I guess, focusing so much on. I sort of made a comment about it in one of the other episodes, but I was like, it always feels worse to have the bad thing when you see the good thing. Right? When you know the good thing is out there. But if you don't worry about the good thing and you make do with what you have, don't try to force yourself to be something you're not, because no one wins. You're not going to be happy. No one else is going to fall for it. And no one's going to win. But if you're like, I'm happy with what I'm doing. I accept that this is a fact about me, and I'm going to roll with what I've got and make the best of my life. That's all it comes down to, because as long as you've got the best out of your situation, then what else could you really ask? Like I think it's greedy and foolish to be like, well, I need more. It's one thing to want more, and it's another thing to be like, I'm not happy with what I've been given, And instead of work to give myself more, I'm going to complain about what I have. And then it's just a mess at that point.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to what you said earlier. It was, what'd you say? It feels worse to lose or whatever than
Yeah.
it
So
does to
it
feel.
always feels worse to have the bad thing and see
Yeah.
the good thing than it is to just have the bad thing and know nothing else.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing that this like literally applies to like everything.
Yes.
Like typically it'd be like people feel worse when they lose a bet rather than like the feeling of losing the bet is more dramatic than
Losing the actual whatever it was.
or like I'm comparing like it to losing to winning. Like
Right.
losing the bet just feels way worse than or is more extreme. You feel it more than if you were to win.
Right. You have more of a rush when you lose than you do when you win.
Yeah, like it just feels more intensified. That feeling is more intense
Yes.
losing than it is winning.
Yes.
Because I've seen people on I've seen YouTube videos of people like they'll put like their life savings like $57,000 and like try to trade with it and go all in.
Oh no.
And then they immediately watch like whatever they invested in and try to trade. They watch it go to like zero or not, like they watch it dump and they just like watch they watch their life savings go down and then that creates like a state of FOMO where they're like, I have to get out now. Like maybe if they waited they could have gone back to break even, but since like in the moment it's down, you're panicking, you're FOMOing.
Yeah.
That's just one thing I've noticed. That's just
it.
That's just how we function.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's people that love the feeling of winning and they're like, oh no, I don't care about losing. But
man, what a blessed trait to have.
Yeah.
I don't feel that bad when I lose, but I feel great when I win.
Yeah, maybe like if you have some of the anxiety of losing, like that should be your warning. Like whatever you're betting in and partaking in, if you could imagine losing and like how that feel, then your anxiety kicked in.
Yeah.
That'd be a good trigger for it.
Yeah.
Like, all right, don't do it.
Don't do it. No, one other thing is you're never going to feel as amazing winning if you don't feel horrible losing. And what I mean by that is if you put in $1 and get $1 out, you're not going to be like, yeah. But if you put in like $57,000 and you get $200,000 out, you're like, oh yeah. But if you put in $57,000 and you get nothing, you're like, no. So it's like, it's a scaling thing. And
well, I'm also
the
sure
nature
like,
of it.
It could also intensify things where like you lose it first.
Yeah.
And then you win after.
Yeah.
It's like that. Like that's a good situation because, you know, rather than just giving up on whatever you're doing as soon as you had that, like a detrimental loss of some sort, the feeling of overtaking it could be better.
True. The accomplishment of it.
Yeah, because you failed at first, tried it again.
So we're going to transition into CRISPR because I don't know what that is. And we teased it last time, and I actually am like really curious about it.
All right. CRISPR is literally just gene editing. You're able to edit your genes. It's like, so what does that mean? Like you could like construct a human or whatever and like mess with their genes. So like when they develop, they could be better, stuff like that.
You can essentially create superhumans.
Yeah, you could do stuff like that.
The perfect embodiment of a human.
Brett Weinstein talked about it. It was so interesting because he was talking about CRISPR and gene editing. He was talking about like how we need to be careful of like editing genes. Because he was saying like it would be bad if this goes back to the economic thing, what we talked about last time a little bit. You know how I said like when you first release something, it's all right, it works.
Right.
But then as time continues, because what we're good at is improving upon things. We're really good at that. And so, you know, whatever process you are using making something at first, it's going to suck or be all right. And as time goes on, you get better at producing it at more efficiently, more effectively,
Right.
maybe make something even better.
Right.
And so the whole CRISPR thing, like not anyone can just edit genes. It's not a very widespread thing.
Not a common skill set.
I think a good comparison is like our 3D printers.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I remember being in middle school, I forgot who the teacher was.
I know what teacher it was. The technology teacher?
Yeah, the technology.
Mr. McMahon.
Yeah, Mr. McMahon. I had the class with, I think, Damon or Davis. I don't remember. Anyways, like, I think for one of our assignment, like, I don't know, for some reason that class we would always be like something about news related to tech. That's all I remember.
Like the current events.
Yeah. And then I remember though, like a lot of people in the class, including I think McMahon, was like, "Oh, dude, look at like this 3D printing stuff," when it was on the rise.
Yeah.
Because it's like this whole new concept, or a concept being brought back to light, and then just watching people doing like, yeah, we're constructing all this stuff. Like at that time, it's not very widespread. We're literally getting the information about 3D printing over the internet about like this crazy thing.
Right.
And now, like, I know people that have 3D printers.
Yeah. Right. Like Centennial, I think, has one in their school.
Yeah. I think Rocky has one too.
Yeah. And dentists use 3D printers all the time. And
yeah, like
now it's just a thing.
Yeah. Now it's just a thing. And I'm sure like maybe even more people get if we get even better at making like just making the items from the 3D printer. Yeah. So right now the whole CRISPR thing, not anyone can just be like, I want to put in this amount of money and edit genes.
Right.
Like
make my perfect baby.
Yeah, exactly. This is like a very like this is like for the scientists and stuff, not it's not a commercial use thing yet.
Yes.
And so Brett Weinstein talked about it and said we get into the issue when we get so good at making these, improving our gene editing, like we'll probably reach a point where then it probably like bleeds over to commercial use where you could just have anyone construct whatever they want, because then it gets into ideas like, what if they want to construct like some biochemical weapon or something and like give it to people?
Yeah.
Because it'd be bad if you could just have like someone from the middle class want to develop like a biological weapon.
It's almost too much power to be given to just anybody.
Yeah. Well, it's like what happens?
It's like, then it becomes like, but then you could get like factory babies. And then like they would just start pumping out perfect babies.
Well, a long time ago, I forgot who talked about this. I think it was not Carl Jung.
Probably a Greek dude.
No. Alan Watts.
Oh, yes.
Alan Watts. He was talking about I think it was the government. Someone interviewed him. Maybe it was a scientist, but they just said, like, what would you think if we had the ability to create like perfect or more better humans?
Yeah.
I forgot his response, but he just said, like, we got to be careful because if you just construct these perfect humans that are really good and like certain, like, if they're all specialized in like a good area, you know, there could be this huge disparagement between like what would happen to the people then that didn't have their genes edited basically or weren't created?
It would create a rift. And there would also be like societal consequences of they would probably be shamed. They would probably be cast out of society. Yeah. And then we get into the whole thing. Would they, if they're perfect humans, think about this. If they're perfect in every single way, would they still feel the imposter syndrome and anxiety and depression? Would that still manifest in a perfect human? Because a lot of the study based on those illnesses, I guess, are hormonal, chemical, genetic, all these imbalances that all come together to create an anxious person, a
Yeah.
naturally depressed person, and all of those things come together to create it. So if none of those factors played in and you weren't naturally depressed, I think you could still probably get depressed and anxious over time.
Yeah. Well, I think it would get depressed because it would become self-conscious. It'd be like, oh, I was made to be like better than you guys. Like,
I could think of a perfect Pokemon allegory.
yeah. Well, so anyways, like he like at first he'd be like, hey, I'm better than you guys, and let's just say they wipe us all out.
Yeah.
And they become the new thing. Well, they're going to get better at constructing humans. And so it's going to be self-conscious of, oh, I can be improved upon. And then it'll just probably be the same process.
Just with more advanced humans.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll at least make the Dyson sphere. Have you heard about that?
Yeah. Dude, that stuff's really cool.
Yeah. Harnessing the power of the sun. Oh my God. That's so cool.
Dave was talking. He's like, which planet would you live on if you could choose? I said Earth.
Yeah. Why would you choose any of the other awful planets?
Because I got into why I picked Earth, and Dave's like, no, just be normal and like answer the question. I was like, I don't know. Like, I'd pick one of the gas giants because like you look at Mercury or Venus,
dude.
You're just like, who wants to be there? Or even Mars. Like Mars is kind of cool.
Not Mercury. Even if it was habitable, Mars and Mercury would be boring as all hell because they're just giant deserts.
Yeah.
Venus, you would never see the sky because it's just an eternal windstorm. And I guess Jupiter is similar, but Jupiter's a gas giant, so it's like different.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I think the gas giants are way cooler, but it's like you can't live on a gas giant.
I just thought of this really cool idea for a story. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if this already exists and I just don't know about it. But story about these creatures, and you'd be seeing it from the creatures themselves, not from a human's perspective, but these creatures that can live and inhabit a gas giant and like exist in an environment where there's no land.
Yeah.
I don't know. You said that and I was like, that'd be fascinating to like.
And I'm sure like I would like to fantasize that there's some alien species like
living in the heart of Jupiter that nobody knows about.
They just figure it like that's just how they are. But
because you can fit 80 I'm probably off on that number, 80 Earths inside the red spot on Jupiter.
Yeah, like
that's mind-blowing. Oh my God.
It's insane.
80, 30, 80, whatever it is, maybe more.
I still haven't been around the current one we're on.
Wait, you what?
I still haven't been around this entire one that we're on.
One we're on already. So
fun, like, because because again, like I looked at all the other options. I'm like, these are all so boring. But
yeah,
like I look at the
Pluto
gas
would be interesting merely for the view,
dude.
Or Neptune, you could be on in the eternal sea.
And from what I remember, so me and Dave were talking about dwarf planets.
Yep.
And supposedly the reason why it's a dwarf planet, so like Pluto has a moon. I don't know if you knew that.
Yep. Yeah, I think I know where you're going with this because I've heard about this.
Yeah, like the center of gravity between them is not the planet. It's like a little far, like it's not even close to the middle. It's like here's both planets, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like literally like right here.
Like right outside of Pluto.
Yeah, like right outside the Pluto is how they're like rotating around each other.
Which means Pluto's being affected by the moon's gravitational pull.
As well, yeah.
As well.
And so it's not big enough to be like how we have it.
Yeah.
Or
that's a
Jupiter,
classification.
Saturn. Okay. I didn't know that.
So the classification is that if it can have within its own gravitational pull other bodies orbiting around it.
Yeah.
I think that's when it's considered a planet. But since technically Pluto does, but at the same time it doesn't fully, that's why it's like in that weird middle ground of not fully a planet, but it's kind of a planet. But I think our moon is somewhat, it's either they're close in size, I believe.
Our moon is close into
There's moons of Jupiter and Saturn that are way bigger than Pluto. Yeah. And isn't it crazy that Jupiter has like 30 something moons,
That's awesome.
or Saturn. One of the two giant, like they have like 30, 40 something. Well, actually, I think it's more. I think it's way more than that. But we're so. It's so beyond our scope of understanding, and that's just within our solar system.
Well, that's what I love about it, because
Oh my.
I don't know. Our solar system is pretty awesome when I look at it, because we got all these solid planets that are different. You know,
Yeah.
Earth obviously being like looking completely different compared to the rest. And then farther out, you got these gas giants. You got Saturn with these big rings.
Yeah.
You know, like
Each one's distinct.
yeah, like Saturn, Jupiter being like a brownish, reddish colors.
Yeah.
Saturn being like mostly brown
Jupiter's
from what I remember.
just massive, like huge.
Yeah, and then right outside there, you got I think Neptune,
I think it goes Neptune, Uranus.
which is like this
Yeah.
blue color, and you got Uranus, which is like this beautiful turquoise color,
And you got Pluto.
and you got Pluto.
It's just a rock.
I think Pluto is totally he's the people's champ.
he's
everyone-
the underdog.
Yeah, everyone loves him and believes in him.
I want to see,
But look up pictures of Uranus, because
bruh.
I know we're mature.
Look at pictures
of
Uranus.
Because you know Uranus has rings as well.
Yeah, it does. Yes, I know it. It has a
When you said
vertical
that,
ring.
I thought of a dick ring. What do you call that? What else?
Yes,
do you
it has a
call it?
vertical ring. So
Okay.
does Neptune, I think.
Yeah, but Neptune's like it's very
you
like
can barely
faded.
see it. Yeah.
But just looking at those planets, I'm like, these are way more pretty and interesting, in my opinion. Next thing I was gonna be like aliens on Venus.
Dude, okay, have you ever played No Man's Sky?
No, I know you.
I have to show you that game because there's like rings are like random.
Okay.
So you can go on any planet and like if your planet has rings, you can see it in your atmosphere.
Ooh.
Looks so cool.
I think it's a Saturn. Dave's was showing me. It's like the top or bottom of the Saturn, because it's a gas giant. Okay, remember Saturn?
Yes.
At the top or bottom, I don't remember, and I think it was Saturn. Could be Jupiter, but at the top or bottom of Saturn, it's a hexagon shape of like different colors or whatever.
Yeah. It's
It's like a hexagon.
I think it's Saturn.
I think it's Saturn. It's a hexagon,
Yeah.
and then
The poles.
it was like, that's cool. Like that's like physics and math, and then that makes me want to learn physics and math. I'm just like, what's going on there? That's cool.
Dude, there's so many things. Like they think they found ice. I think it's on Io, which is
Yeah, Davis was talking about that.
Jupiter's moon. Calypso is one of my. I just like that name. It's a. I don't remember the story, the Greek myth, but
This is random. The moon that orbits Pluto, or the moon that's next to Pluto, is Charon,
Charon.
whatever. And I was like, oh, Charon's coin.
Pluto and Charon. Okay, so you know Pluto is Hades, right?
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah.
I
And
never remember.
Charon is the guy who escorts you to the underworld on the river Styx.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And I think there's another, I don't know what it is, but there's a celestial being out there that's celestial object that's named Cerberus.
Okay.
But and this just popped in my head when you were talking about that, because we were talking about like saying the river Styx made me think like if you were to go to Pluto and then you're like, I'm gonna go just further beyond. And then it's like, boom, you're outside of the solar system.
Yeah. Like, Dave's is showing me, like, I watched this one video, some like Anton Petrev, I think his name is. He covers like science. He covers science news, and he was saying like outside our solar system, the asteroid belt, the Kuiper belt.
Yeah.
He was saying like it's like all fire and like really hot out there.
Plasma and stuff
like that. I think that's what it was. But like, because Davis was showing me a thing when you zoom out, and so like, you know how we're a disk, like our solar system, it's a disk.
Oh, but it's like hurtling through space.
Yeah, like, no, not in that sense. Like, so I guess for comparison, like when he zoomed out, there's like a bunch of dust that's like outside our belt, like a bunch of just dust around us, and it's the shape of a sphere, but like it's literally like a sphere. It's like a ball,
like surrounding our solar system,
surrounding like everything, like a huge portion of us,
Whoa.
like, probably has something to do with our star, but like, there's just a lot of dust that's like in a sphere. Because like, rather than viewing like, because I said like we're like a disc, like literally like the sun, it doesn't have a sphere around it of planets.
Right.
It's a flat disc. It's a flat that has stuff orbiting around it.
I'm glad we kind of went off the more depressing note towards the end.
Dude, this felt short. What if this is a lame one?
That's okay if it's a lame one. There's going to be lame ones.
You're right.
Do you have anything, any final thoughts you want to share?
I don't know. I just really got to take a piss.
Nice. Well, that's gonna do it for our episode 2. It was a little bit more laid back, I'd say. We were both a lot more relaxed. But
we got to get you
usual,
a comfy chair like this.
I know, right? We were both laying pretty relaxed this time. But I encourage interaction, and we haven't gotten any ideas from anybody yet. But if there are any ideas that people want to hear our thoughts on, preferably not political. I'm looking at you, Dad. I don't necessarily want to talk about politics.
We could totally talk, but like we could cheat and we could like talk about perspective instead and go down a whole different path and not make it political.
We'll see. I don't know. Anyways,
all right.
We do have a Facebook page that you can go like, and that's, I think, either on the YouTube video or the Facebook page or whatever. That's where you can leave comments.
Facebook. No one uses Facebook.
Some people use Facebook, Jared. And luckily for you, we don't only have a Facebook page. We have Instagram, which I know you use.
It's going to turn into Pinterest.
Young man. Well, should we make a Pinterest?
No.
We also have a Twitter. No one's on our Twitter right now.
That's all right.
So if you want to look up on Twitter, IOHS podcast, or I think you could probably just search the name. We're there too for, I just tweet every time there's an update and, like when the next episode's coming out. That's what I do on Instagram too. I might start doing more on Instagram, like stories and stuff, but
take good clips and put it on there.
I do. I actually have an extra, I have a bonus clip from the one that just went up on September 11th.
You could put the bloopers on there.
Oh, that would be funny too. See, look at this. We're coming up with content ideas. Follow us to find out if we actually follow through on it. Anyways, that's the end of episode 2. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back in a week with another episode. Hopefully more about something. This one was more about like anxiety, but I liked the other one because that one felt like way more on track. Anyways,
yeah,
I don't want to put negative thoughts in your head about our own podcast. So see you later.
Bye-bye.